What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Hxro Labs. DeltaFi today with Rob Levy and RT in a surprise appearance a little later today, probably a couple minutes late. But we will have Crypto Messiah on here with us as well. He's just booting it home from something he was out at. So yeah, welcome back, guys. Hope you guys are well. Pretty sure we're all coming through crispy clean, but if not, hit us up in the chat as usual. Let us know. Rob, how the heck are you, man?
What's going on? I'm good. Good. Coming off, July 4th, holiday weekend. Things get pretty slow in the States around this time. Not saying it's the summer doldrums, but kind of feels that way. And then I guess Europe usually goes on vacation for August. So, July and August can be some low volume, kind of ho-hum months in the market. But sometimes it's not the case and things go absolutely crazy. I mean, last year there was DeFi summer. There's some years in stock market when shit goes nutty in July and August. There was a flash crash in August. There was some stuff. So, it's not every summer, but kind of got that vibe here right now.
Yeah, that's actually what caught me off guard last summer. It was a lot of the TRI guys and I. It's just like, oh yeah, quiet summer. Selling may walk away. Let's have some fun. We'll get back into it in Q4, September, whatever. Well, early or late Q3 and DeFi summer. Alt season last summer was beautiful, pleasant surprise, and I think possibly fueled by COVID. Right, everyone's just at home. Crypto's sexy. Altcoins had this long sort of accumulation bottom formation breaking out. I don't see that this summer. I see some really nice altcoin gains this week, and I was watching from afar while I was up north. I just got home like 3 hours ago. I'm hungry right now. I'm hungry for a trade. I am, going to do a full scan. I think there could be some nice echo rallies off the bottoms for some coins that haven't moved yet. There could be some nice pullbacks on the ones that just broke out, get that retest. But for the most part, I'm not buying the full, hey, it's going to be DeFi summer. I hope it is. But I'm just going to be looking for trades, like quick one-off trades. Let's get back up to those nice big resistance levels that we lost, make a nice, in this case, some of them are 100% up, 150, 250% up. But I don't know that I'm ready to change my tune and load the bag here. I am excited about Bitcoin, despite how boring it is. I think its next big move could be days away, weeks away, month away, but I think July 18th is interesting. Have you been paying attention to this GBTC unlock stuff?
Yeah, I think if you're really heavy and really in the weeds in the crypto markets, then if you haven't been paying attention to GBTC for the last 10 months, then you're kind of deer in headlights or living under a rock. But I think the big question right now is this is like the last set of unlocks. And, is that the one that's priced in already? Are we really going to see dumping of Bitcoin when these things get unlocked? Now, I've seen yesterday in the commitment of traders report for the CME futures that about 20,000 contracts of open interest have come off in the last, I think 30 to 45 days. So a lot of that speculated to have been unwinding of hedges against GBTC longs. That was like the trade of the end of last year for hedge funds and for entities that were looking to take advantage of that premium that existed in GBTC. But, trade got super crowded and that thing really flip-flopped. So
yeah, it's like minus 12% now, isn't it? The premium?
Yeah.
Like it's gone. That trade is
yeah.
over, yeah.
And it was trading for a size premium. So the idea that this is all going to be Bitcoin, like 30,000 Bitcoin that's getting dumped on the market, no, I don't think that's the case. I think this is more psychologically, what is it going to do to the market? Psychologically, the timing of this has aligned with what's gone on in the market with the topping process and the distribution, and then all of a sudden those unlock dates aligned with some of the biggest dumps of Bitcoin. So at this point, I don't think GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust unlock, is going to be as big of a deal nearly. I mean, it might be one of those situations where it's a bullish unlock and you rally, kind of like that Solana unlock, which was literally the last chance to buy Solana under $1.50 or $2 back at the end of last year. So I don't know. I'm not as bearish as many people are out there, and it's just, I don't know. I'm not seeing the signs of I mean, the charts all look terrible. Like everything's 60-70% below where it was, and we haven't gotten the extended, petering out of coming off it and then getting ready to go. Some stuff looks a little like that, but others, people say, it's still got time. It still needs a wick to the downside. But I also remember everybody saying we didn't get a blow off top yet. We didn't make a high. Get a blow off top. We didn't.
I love that one. Yeah.
So
and they might be right. They might be right. We're at a midpoint now. Yeah.
We could, dude. That's the thing.
Nobody knows.
Nobody fucking knows. They do whatever, and then like everybody's gonna kind of recalibrate, and mentally they're gonna change their tune, and no matter what happens, I think a lot of people can be right. We could go lower on some macro stuff, and because I think it would be more macro than kind of anything else at this point. But I mean, for long term, it's just like nothing's changed to me since 2 months ago, and I think you're getting a 50% discount on stuff that you want to own for the long run. So
yeah, if you were in it for the long run 3 months ago, like truly in it, like, I'm going to hold Solana to 100, I'm going to hold ETH to 10K. Like if you were in that camp, I don't think changing your tune here is long-term success stuff.
Yeah. It depends. I mean, that's also the thing. Like if you're just living in crypto Twitter, you got to understand the guys on there, and like the time frames they're trading are often way different. No one's trading the exact same time frame as you. No one's got the exact same plan or strategy. And there could be guys who are watching the 1 minute, 5 minute, 15-minute chart, and who like they trigger you because you're in a trade and you're feeling down, and they're the opposite side as you. So it really, you just have to realize how emotional and how emotionally charged like the
swings.
Yeah.
I think too, I mean, crypto Twitter flips bias. I mean, every fucking day, if it's an up day, everybody's going to be bullish because that's where the cloud is. If it's a down day, of course, everybody's bearish in that circumstance. And I totally agree with everything that you've just said. My only counter argument to that is that, in crypto, I can't tell you how many times that I've convinced myself that I'm in something for the long term, that I'm in that this is going to be huge, and I'm going to hold this for 5 years, and my family is going to be set for life, and this is going to be fantastic, only to watch extreme bubble and burst cycles play out, and me sit there and say, well, fuck, I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. And maybe we have transitioned to a point to where, some kind of long-term investment thesis. So, and when I say long-term, for me, that's not 20 years from now. There's so many uncertainties, just in terms of regulatory clarity and stuff like that. I mean, 20 years from now, that's a big if. All it takes is the government stepping in and saying, oh fuck, like, hey, this stuff's like competing with the USD now. Like we're gonna make this really bad. The way I see it, it's always best to understand that there are extreme bubble and burst cycles in crypto, and that these bubble cycles go higher than anybody thinks they can, and the burst cycles can get much uglier than anybody thinks they can. So when I say, like, for example, I got my Ethereum short off yesterday at 2,400. and I have my reasons for doing so. I don't think that Ethereum is smoked. I don't think that it's going to go back to, triple digits, and I could very well be wrong. But what I do know is that Ethereum is in a downtrend. Ethereum has been going down, and I'm going to assume that it's going to continue to go down for the foreseeable future, and we'll see what happens. But I would much rather have that kind of outlook on it when we're looking at swings this large. And with swings this large comes the potential to extract profit from not only being, a long-term bull, which I definitely am, but from somebody who plays the swings as well. If you look at, the kind of sentiment on crypto Twitter, I think it's very difficult to get any kind of sentiment reading or analysis from that, not only because the flip-flopping, but just because everybody, of course, is there to sell you their book. I mean, that's no secret at all. But with Ethereum, well, just think about this, though. With Bitcoin, think about how complacent everybody got. With Ethereum, and it's especially clear if you switch it to maybe like the 4, even the 12-hour time frame. I'm seeing 3 drives here into yearly volume weighted average price on, and mainly I'm looking at the Binance BTC or ETH USD perp into resistance. Everybody is very hopeful that, the market has recovered at this point, at least I feel like. And I'm happy to take the other side of that just because I've seen these bubbles pop. And I know that just when people start getting complacent, everybody made a little bit of money playing the DeFi flip. So, if you did that, I mean, fuck, what a hell of a play, though. I mean, there's not much faster money you can make in crypto than some kind of reversion play like that. I mean, that was insane.
The bounces are strong.
I mean, my buddy Ledger Status nailed that shit. And I think he nailed that shit better than almost anybody. The dude literally bought these bottoms when I didn't want to touch this shit. I thought it was going lower, but he saw the fear in the market. He came in, he bought these bottoms. And I think you did a bit of that too, random task. And he offloaded his shit to cash yesterday. And he made the comment on Twitter. He said, man, sitting in cash makes me sick.
I saw that, yeah.
It hurts. And I get that. It does hurt. And the reason is because sitting in cash is almost like we're all kind of like drug addicts here in the sense that we love the rush. We're addicted to the hit. We're addicted to the dopamine. Mm-hmm. You go to cash and then your brain is accepting the fact that, hey, there's no that stuff you love. There's no more of that for you in the pipeline. There's no more of that dopamine. But I just can't. With these, look, all of the, synthetics, Aave is the most clear to me. These are bearish retests. I'm trying to look at this and be objective about it and see it for what it is. We're looking at stuff that is an extremely strong bear trend, and we have bearish retests here. So best case scenario, the way I see it, we do have exhaustion showing on multiple things, Bitcoin, Ethereum, et cetera. You do have strength in the dollar. The best case scenario here is that, okay, we had a really solid bounce. Let's see if it comes down and makes a higher low. And if it does, hit the fucking gas, get on. Because when it starts coming down again, trust me, the sentiment here is going to get really, really ugly. Worst case scenario, you're smart about this. You're patient about it. Let's say we do make, we make lower lows, and the bear trend has continued. Well, there's some really, really, really obvious places, below our most recent low where I think that buyers are going to be stepping in. So either way, I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that there's a smart and a safe way, to play this. And people say, oh, that's just PTSD from 2018. But maybe 2018 was a learning experience. People want to frame it as some kind of disorder that you're scared of knowing what these crypto markets can do and knowing how brutal they can be. That's not an experience I'll ever forget. So is it PTSD? Maybe. But the way I'm looking at it, it's just like, fuck, these markets can fuck you up. I mean, big time. And I'm not going to be a party to that again.
There was a lot of never again sentiment, right? And we lived with that for a year and a half where I personally went, higher than I ever thought I would. took some out, felt good about it, watched 3 times that disappear, and then you sit there. And I actually had a repeat bubble with a Bixi investment that brought me right back almost, I'd say, halfway to my 2017 highs, and I watched that disappear. Yeah, I watched that disappear. So I was like,
Bixi didn't end up going too well, did it?
No, it's still alive. I mean, they're still around. There's I actually have a bigger bag now because I just added during the crazy bull we had this year because it was at like a quarter penny. I was like, fuck it. 0.05 Bitcoin got me like $250,000 of them. I was like, fuck it, I'll buy some. But who knows? Yeah, I haven't paid too much attention. I think I got a notification from them today. Point being, I watched that disappear as well. So I very much at the bottom 2020 was like, never again. And so I feel you. Now, you mentioned the Dixie, which I think is probably the most interesting chart to me right now. Kind of exactly what I was hoping would happened today. And it's sort of the last stand as far as, me thinking that this is going to come up here and top and then roll back over, and that whole, break of this trend line for now is a fake out. So there's a little hopium here for anyone who thinks that we can't rally with the Dixie. Now, of course, we could. That's never really happened before. It's not impossible, right? Bitcoin being in the position it is in the world, the narrative that it has longer term, it should be able to rally along with the US dollar in the medium term. I'm not betting on that, but I'll tell you there's this gap here. We're going to look at the daily. This is what I've been watching, kind of highlighted in the newsletter. This is a big week. So here was this gap back from April 5th. And I thought, okay, we're pushing up. I would not be shocked at all if we fill that gap before we get any proper downside. There's just too many traders and all that won't put on the big short position until that's finished or whatever they're going to do to it. So we filled that today. And we filled it in the way that I was hoping we would, which is if you zoom in on the 4-hour and you look at the momentum indicators, we're seeing momentum roll over. We're seeing bearish divergence into that fill. So, in a way, this is exactly what I was hoping would happen on the Dixie as far as but we got to stop now. If we break to new highs some more, then I'm not as convinced and I get a little uncomfortable with this coiling up Bitcoin. My spot buys that I've made, I'm pretty much holding now. At first, when I first picked them up, I was like, invalidation 28K. But I don't know if I have it in me to sell if we rip lower out of this range. I don't think I'm willing to risk selling any part of that rip for fear of just getting left behind on a spring. I'm just too bullish on Bitcoin in the mid and longer term that I'm not going to get out of that. But I will change things. I might hedge it out. I might try to short something if there's a nice setup. I'll look at other options. But what we're seeing in the Dixie today, for what it's worth, I think is promising. It is the last stand, though, for what I've been looking at. So we're going to keep a close eye on this. I've got my alert set on what would be a new local high. But if what I want to happen is going to happen, rolling over here, not confirming a break of this downtrend, then, the time is growing near for the bears to step in. What's really interesting is the action we're seeing on altcoins. Now, I think you pointed out beautifully, which what I was going to say is, there's no trade here on Aave to be like, yes, we're back. I'm going to long 300. There's just no setup there for me. There's no way to risk what lows am I going to risk to, right?
It's not a short either.
It's not quite
totally
a short.
Agree.
Yeah,
there's no trade. Because you look at that and it very well could just reclaim that. Maybe because I think that the thesis that these productive assets, right? Because I'm looking at these productive assets and I'm like, man, you guys hoodwinked me again. This is Masternodes 2.0, and I came over and I thought Aave was the future of finance and we were going to yield farm all this shit and we were all going to get rich together and be happy, and it was just going to be what it was. But at the end of the day, is this DeFi shit just kind of Masternodes 2.0? I think right now we very well could just reclaim and move on from there. Maybe it's like, hey, you guys had the opportunity to buy Aave in the 200s and it's over now because Aave is bringing real institutional money. Have you seen Aave Pro?
I haven't actually looked at it, no.
There's something called Aave Pro, and it's actually a gated version of Aave with a KYC on and off ramps, and it's designed for regulatory compliance and institutional clients. That's very interesting to me, and the timing of it as well. These guys have been at the forefront of DeFi for a while, and maybe these guys are saying, which is something at Hxro that we've been kind of privy to for a while and looking at for a while. this Wild West, no KYC, do anything you want kind of version of DeFi, that's slowly going away. It just is. The writing's on the wall. And it's, I don't think it's going to be like, hey, tomorrow, the gates are closed, no more Ponzi games. We're acting, we're doing serious business here. But I do think that it's coming. It might not even be till next year or the year after that. But it's interesting to see these market leading DeFi protocols start to say, hey, to get the kind of money we want into the ecosystem, to truly grow, these institutional guys they can't come in and play cowboy. They need these KYC governed on and off ramps and stuff like that. So it is interesting, and something I was following for a while too was Arbitrum. The first true layer 2 solution for Ethereum. And the interesting thing is, I thought that shit was supposed to be out like last week. And it's funny because the talk of that's kind of died off. So I need to look into it, but I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Of course, yesterday, big news. We finally got word on when EIP, or the London hard fork, is going to occur, which includes several EIPs, the most famous of which is EIP 1559. But I believe that's coming August 5th. So we still do have that news event, looming ahead of us. So for Ethereum, while I see this price action, I see this structure, it's extremely clear to me that we're seeing signs of exhaustion. We have these 3 drives or whatever, but you've got the biggest news event ever for Ethereum just 1 month away. So I see a couple things that can happen here. We could very easily just say, gotcha bears, and pump into this shit. And this still could end up being a sell the news event. But who's to say Ethereum doesn't, slam its way to 2,800 before that happens? That's the only thing here, about this that makes me nervous. The other, on the flip side of the coin, you could say that, hey, well, knowing the actual date of this occurring, that's a sell the news event. We have an announcement, we have a date. In retrospect only, in hindsight only, you could look back at that and you could say, wow, that was the top on Ethereum. That's when a momentum really shifted to the downside, because people don't understand. They think that EIP is going to activate, and all of a sudden, we're going to have this amazing deflationary monetary policy of Ethereum. We're going to be burning a ton of Ethereum, and that's super bullish, right? Which I agree with. But at the same time, you have to have heavy DeFi activity to actually burn a lot of those fees. Without heavy activity, if gas prices are still super low, which they weren't yesterday, I think because of Shiba swap, then it doesn't really do much. So I'm trying to navigate around this news event and determine, what kind of scenario we're actually playing into. Because while I shorted 2,400, which I think is a fantastic entry, that my point of invalidation is literally right there. I mean, if we
what is your invalidation on that?
It's not like a physical number. It's more just like, hey, that obviously we broke, because 3 drives, you can draw the trend line, you can see the momentum exhaustion. I mean, if we break that to the upside, then I'm just going to bail out on it. And I will still then be looking to sell EIP 1559. I mean, just news in crypto 9 times out of 10 sells. And the thing is Ethereum's the same way as these DeFi protocols, because a lot of people, myself included, I'm not calling for 900 or any of that shit. I think that's crazy. But in retrospect, maybe it's crazy not to be calling for 900. Who knows? We'll see. I think we get 1,400 and that's good to go. But just like these DeFi protocols, we could pump to 28. We could come back down, test 2,000, put in that higher low, and then boom, blast off, double bubble off to the races. It's so uncertain right now. It's ridiculous. And the biggest thing I always try to tell people, you can't predict any of this shit, so don't try to. You can react to certain things happening in the market. You can go long at a certain support level. You can go long at an MA. You can trade counter trend and try to catch those reversions, when things are overextended. But at the end of the day, these markets are going to do whatever the fuck they want to do. They don't care about you. You know, they don't care about your bear div. They don't care about your resistance level. I mean, these are all things that we just use to tell ourselves that, you know, that, hey, you know, I can navigate this market. But I've seen crypto do some crazy ass shit. I mean, we very well could be on the precipice of some of that. Who knows?
Bottom line, I mean, we can find, you can try to find your analogs, is what we used to call them, for what we're going to see. And let's pull up one chart. It could vary. The overall market could end up being like axes, AXS, where we come out of a fucking cycle and just like put in a look like this. Or it could be, I mean,
Axes doesn't give a fuck right now.
I saw some big DeFi names that I respect a lot, like Arthur 0x, and he was saying that, you know, these DeFi markets are just basically going to turn around and do that, you know, and maybe they do, you know, and that's the thing. That's why I haven't totally just ditched exposure, because I know how this shit goes. You know, I know. Yeah,
you fall asleep for a week, you come back, it's all up 400%.
I'm not going to be caught with my fucking pants down. You know, if that happens to DeFi, you know, what we saw on AXS. But at the same time, these same fucking guys, you know, are they euphoric right now? Because this is super isolated. Delphi did release a report on AXS and sent it to the moon. They released a report on Alpha as well, and they sent Alpha to the moon.
Well, and that's the kind of thing I think you see in this uncertain market is very sensitive to news. I mean, there's bulls out there, clearly, but where are they going to direct their cash at? It's not a market-wide rally yet, so you end up with something as sensitive like a Delphi article, which, you know, their reports they put out are dope. They're very good, in-depth.
Oh, they're amazing.
And so in a market like this where it's kind of a quiet market, where's the bull going to come? It's probably going to come in anything that stands out like that. So,
well, the hot ball of money in DeFi was always, I feel, internal to us, you know, the VCs here, our community here. You know, these DeFi rallies weren't, you know, new retail euphoria driven. I mean, look at DeFi summer. You know, Bitcoin was at fucking $12,000. Nobody gave a shit about this stuff, and yet somehow we still managed to make millionaire after millionaire after millionaire. You know, so there's still the thesis too that, hey, you know, DeFi doesn't kind of operates on its own timeline. It operates on its own schedule. You know, of course, these VC guys that are in these DeFi protocols that own, you know, $100 million of sushi and stuff like that, their TradFi buddies are still wanting to get in this shit. They've shilled it to death, probably. I mean, we shill our bags, right? And I know these funds do the same fucking thing. Do we have to have this kind of alt season, alts are going crazy, Bitcoin's going crazy, Ethereum's going crazy kind of environment for something like DeFi to thrive? I don't know the answer to that. I really don't.
Bottom line is everything is different. I can't tell you how many markets I've traded and really kind of lived where I was like a primary market maker in them. So I was so in the weeds, so like connected. It was like our periods were in sync. That where you just, it's never really the same. And when you think something's not possible, it happens. And it's always keeping you on your toes typically. So like no one knows what's going to happen. You try to look for signals. You try to give yourself the best expected value. You try to size yourself properly. And like, to me, it's all about like the sizing and your, you know, even ratios, right? Of if you're short, you know, like a guy like you, Daniel, some people might listen to you and think that you're like net short, where on the contrary, you have so much long exposure to crypto right now. It's crazy through your job, through everything else. Even if you didn't own any coins, which is not the case, you have so much exposure that if you start posting like even negative short-term, like short-term bearish vibes or short swing trades, you give off the vibe, or people interpret that as that, oh, this guy's fucking short, he's a bear, let's fucking kill him. It's not always that way. And it's all about like your exposure. Now there's spot exposure, there's levered exposure. So
I never fuck with leverage is my thing. And when I say I'm short, I mean, look, my short is fucking enormous, but it's 1x. So that's the thing. It's not like, if I'm wrong, even if I'm wrong and we rip, right, and we rip so fucking hard I don't have time to react, it's not going to ruin me. I still have super heavy DeFi exposure, and in a way that serves as a hedge for my Ethereum short, which serves as a hedge for my DeFi exposure. It's still a big short though, and Buck, I'd love to see Ethereum make new lows here and everybody shit themselves, because I can't imagine how bearish the sentiment would get then. And that's the point where I'm going to be salivating and I'm going to be saying, I'm going to go full perma, freaking crazy bulltard. There's so many just amazing, I think so much amazing value out there right now, even at these levels, even if I knew right now that, hey, Ethereum is going to 1200 or Ethereum is going to 1400 and I could predict the future. And I knew that was the outcome. Even here, some of these DeFi protocols are at good value. I mean, I'm a firm believer that we haven't seen the last of DeFi. If you looked at the actual percentage of that total crypto market cap, that DeFi, the strongest narrative that we've had in crypto, I think maybe since I've been here, it represented about 5% of that total market cap. Yep. And you start asking yourself, DeFi, this narrative that's so strong, really probably the first narrative that, funds want to kind of dip their toes into what we would call shitcoins, or at least what I would call shitcoins. Mm-hmm. We've got a narrative that powerful. How in the fuck do we live in a world where that narrative is only managing to capture around 5% of this crypto market cap? To me, that's just evidence to the fact that DeFi has not bubbled yet. It has not done what it can do yet. And granted, we've had these barriers in place. We've had scalability issues mainly. And the environment just hasn't been conducive yet for DeFi to thrive. But I think it will, and timing when it thrives is a fool's errand. Maybe I do time it perfectly, and that would be fantastic, right? I'd love that. But the odds of that actually happening, I think, are probably low. And that's why I've continued to maintain some DeFi exposure, just because I know that there is a real bubble coming, a bubble where
the
people
big one
make crazy amounts of money. No one's even going to think it's going to be possible. I mean, euphoria is going to be in the air big time, institutional FOMO. I'm not going to miss that. I've been here too fucking long to miss out on something that crazy and something that life-changing.
Sad that people will.
I'm terrified of being 100% short. I'm terrified of, being 100% bearish on some of these things. But looking at that, fuck, I'd still love to see $100 Aave. I'd still love to get Curve at new lows there. Did you know that over 70% of circulating Curve is actually staking? It's just fucking crazy. And then looking at things like Bancor too, which I think has a really, really strong narrative moving forward. Talking about Lindy, these guys have been around forever. They've been around forever, and they're innovators. They do weird shit that no one has even thought of, and they do it well. And they care about their security practices. I mean, I think that some of the value, even at today's prices, even if we lose another 50%, some of the value you get today is going to be value you look back on, and I don't know how long it's going to take. 6 months, a year. I feel like it's more near term, and that's what scares me about being super, super bearish here. I think it's more near term than people realize, that some of these buys, even at these levels, in retrospect, you're going to look back and you're going to say, shit, why didn't I buy it there? It's just like when you look at Bitcoin. Yeah. What if you had sold all of your Bitcoin and all of your coins when Bitcoin was at $50,000, right? Well, you feel kind of shitty about it when Bitcoin goes to 60K. You're like, fuck, I could have gotten that extra 20%. Like, that would have been something, right? But now, you look at a situation and Bitcoin goes to 30K, and you're just sitting there going, fuck. I should have sold at 50. That would have been such an amazing sell. I think we're kind of in a similar situation here. with DeFi.
What do you, I'm glad you brought up Bancor. I was going to ask you, because I've actually been nibbling at Bancor.
I think it looks like a bearish retest right now. And that's just because we haven't managed to break out. Look, DeFi rallied, right?
But listen,
not everything did.
That's the thing. I actually think, like, if you are a believer in the fundamentals of Bancor and you are a believer in their Lindy and in their team and all of that, then like Bancor's bounce back has not been nearly as impressive.
Yeah, it's a laggard.
It's lagging.
Does it mean that it's about to put in a green dildo and catch up, or does it mean that it just doesn't have the knee-jerk support and dip buying support?
I think there's a couple of things for Bancor that made it a laggard. One being how much liquidity that Bancor token actually has. One of the interesting things about Bancor is is a governance token, right? But Bancor is a unit of liquidity. That's the main utility of Bancor. And I think Bancor price action itself serves as a good barometer for the health of the ecosystem as a whole. Because if you look at what this liquidity is in, Bancor is paired versus a lot of big DeFi. It's paired versus Ethereum. It's paired versus things like Chainlink, massively liquid. So when the rest of the DeFi market pumps, or when the rest of the market pumps, I think it actually pumps Bancor because Bancor is the entry ticket to everything else. Bancor has to be bought when these other things are going up. Now, on the flip side, when we're bearish, Bancor is the exit liquidity as well. And I think, we saw Bancor pretty weak on the way down, not much in the way of a bounce. It takes a lot of fucking money to move this thing. It just does. But with Bancor, we're on the precipice. Is it a bearish retest here, or are we going to wake up tomorrow and this shit's going to be up 50%? Because it's definitely one of the two.
I think I really like this chart, and I'll be honest, I was getting a little FOMO on my vacation. I was looking at some charts on my phone, shitty internet, so it's like painful to load. So it was actually nice. I actually didn't take one trade all week. And I saw SNX, and I saw Aave and Comp and Axis and some NFT plays waking up. I was like, okay, this is cool. I missed all of that. But my favorite way to trade is really on the echoes. And as Rob pointed out, he said, look, if DeFi is moving and this hasn't really moved yet, then you have to ask yourself, is it just the next one to go, or is it, is there something else going on? And I look at this chart and I just think, this just looks like the next one to go.
If you look at what DeFi actually moved, though, and this is why, because I was thinking to myself, okay, the hot ball of money is bouncing around. You look at things like synthetics, things like Aave, and wow, what a fucking bounce. That was fast, easy money for anybody that participated on pairings that are relatively liquid. Like, what a fucking bounce. But we bounced to resistance. These DeFi things took 3 months to make a top. Is bottom just
a week? We
go down and it's over and the pain's over and hey, we made it, guys. We survived the bear market. When I see these other things lagging, I look at where the strength was, and it is in the bluest of blue chips. It's in these things that people have just been, universally dying to get in at value. And I think that's important right now, because right now I think that was a good glimpse into what the market, has a really, really, really strong demand for. But the rest of DeFi is lagging. Is it, or is it just that there are certain DeFi protocols that have kind of been accepted that, hey, these are the kingmakers, these are the guys that are hanging around, these are the blues, these are what everybody wants. Is it that kind of situation? And we need those things to really reverse and rally to signify that, hey, DeFi as a whole can go? Or is it just that, these other DeFi things are more like of a DeFi season type thing, and that there's really no one looking to play a reversion bounce on these other things, because we know that the strongest reversions are going to be in the blue chips. And that's what I just don't know, because right now the concerning thing is if we don't have follow through on DeFi right now, there are a lot of people that said, hey, this rallied, that rallied, that rallied. I'm going to buy these laggards, right? That sounds like a great idea. Well, we sold off really hard, right? Down only. Shit was terrible. It was super, super, super painful. But guess what happened now? Sellers had run out of tokens, and that's why we rallied. But now we have fresh leverage in the system. We have fresh bag holders. If we don't see follow through on DeFi, that is what we needed to push this shit down more. It just is what it is, and in my opinion. And I just don't see, is that a really, really strong markup on synthetics, for example? Hell yeah. Like
the volume is telling. Yeah, the volume speaks to the bottom. The volume speaks to.
I like your chart a lot right there. And one of the things I think can and maybe will happen right now is that, we're going to have people that buy in right here, and maybe we don't get new lows, and then we have people getting impatient, we have people selling, and we form these accumulation bottoms. I once again, 3 months to form a top, and we take a stab, down into some of these demand zones, and we pump off of them, and it's just over. I think that's unlikely.
It is. There's 2 trades I'm hunting for this week, and I'm going to highlight my short list on Hxro Labs Live on Friday. So if you guys are around Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, you can catch me here. I'll be solo live, and I'm going to go through every single Binance chart tomorrow. And there's 2 types of trades I'm going to look for. First, on these ones, obviously, I've missed this. This is not a trade where I'm like, hey, synthetics is alive. I'm going to go buy it at 11 because, I could have bought it last week at 6. It's just too fast, too soon. I agree with you. I talk about it all the time. Bottoms tend to take some time to form. And no matter what, almost without fail, when you get bullish market structure or bearish, you're going to get that retest, right? You're going to have the argument down here. So if I really want to get long on synthetics, I have no particular, interest in that one over any other. But if I want to get long in it, these retests are going to be sick. They're going to be really nice opportunities to get a higher low, risking against the lows. Great. I'm not worried about that. So I can either watch for some of these first movers to do their retests, and that could even be above this trend line or above this SR level. But the other trade, and actually I think BNT is going to be on that short list because it just hasn't moved yet, but it has done sort of the first few steps, right? First of all, you talk about timing the market, nobody knows, and I agree with you, and that's why sometimes it's as easy as just get buying in these reload zones, get shorting in, chaos PRZs and other targets, and don't worry about it, because picking things up after big bull rallies back in these reload zones, without fail, more often than not, if you give it enough time, they move. And so what we've got here on Bancor is a low, a higher low, a breakout, a retest, and now we're just trickling up slowly. And we had new highs in volume. Well, I guess since this high back here. So the volume is picking up. So I actually really like BNT here, and I'm going to zoom in. This is the daily, so I'm going to zoom in and see what I can find. But as you said, there's this resistance pretty close by. It may not be the greatest trade for that. However, there is an opportunity there. So the echo plays is what I'll be looking for mostly. Things that haven't moved, that are showing all the signs that perhaps Aave, Synthetics, some of these ones that moved did first. And that's this W right here in the reload zone. So I love that shit. I think Bancor is on the list for sure. And that's going to probably be a Bitcoin trade for me. Most of my liquidity is in BTC right now. So I'll have to look at some of those pairs as well, because obviously if it's not going to outperform or look good versus Bitcoin, I'll probably just stick to my corn. But, it's moving up versus that as well. I've got some USD, so I might take a trade against that on my futures. But yeah, that's it. I think there's 2 trades here to make, and that's waiting on the pullback for some of these ones that moved hard off their lows, because that pullback, like you say, it's going to shake out a lot of the people who are FOMOing into the leaderboard this week. And that's probably more like a 1 to 2 month trade. And then, but chasing these with plays that haven't moved, strong DeFi names, there's a ton of strong DeFi names left. And I imagine a lot of them haven't moved yet, and they're just starting to. So I'm excited for the next few weeks. It's the first time I looked in the market in the last maybe 3 weeks, and I said, okay, cool. Like, it's time to start paying attention again, because I'm not in the business of, just parking bids at these lows. I think I'd do really well if I was, but I try to stay too active and maybe have too much control over it. But just picking up 88.6s, 786s, 702s on high time frames for swing positions tend to age really well. And we're seeing that, I think, most pronounced on SNX and I guess Aave, which didn't even get as low. So maybe a stronger bid down here on Aave.
I'm super excited about picking up some cheap SNX, whether I get that at new lows or whether this scenario you had on your chart played out. I think that's one of the things that stands to gain the most.
Yeah, this is how it's going to form, guys. I mean, not exactly this squiggly, but almost certainly this kind of bottoming, gearing up for the next, you're going to get a higher low. If it's an uptrend, like just say, okay, you know what, screw you, RT, it's not going back down, we're trending up. Well, even in an uptrend, there's going to be a higher low somewhere, right? If it breaks here, there's your higher low. If it breaks
Wall
here,
Street cheat sheet, I know is a meme, but that would be proper disbelief. Us going down because people are going to. I mean, shit. If we have an Ethereum pullback to 2,000 or whatever from here, people are going to lose it. Sentiment is going to shift very quickly, and that could be the trap.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? We are it's not a broader market bull right now, obviously. So, and there's still probably a lot of fear. Let's go check the fear index. I haven't looked at it today. We actually creeped. It's 28.
I think we're back down to 20 or so.
20 yesterday, back up to 28. So we are bubbling up, slowly trending back into sort of the yellow zone, which is good. But like to your point, when this thing does top, which it looks like it just did locally, then it won't be long. Like you're gonna get, it's gonna be volatile, man. Like find me a bottom. I mean, synthetics right here. Like these things just don't form overnight. So I'm excited because this volume coming in is just what we all wanted to see and what we all knew, which is that there is still a pulse here. That the local lows, I think, for this entire pullback, are in, and so it's a matter of finding higher lows on the ones that maybe just rallied, or finding the echo plays. Things like KCS. Have you been paying attention to KCS?
I've been hearing about it though, and I heard that KuCoin or KuCoin or whatever.
KuCoin,
they've got their own chain like BSC, and these guys have been a player for a while. Like holy shit, like that's something. Yeah,
so they've got their own smart chain now. It's not the first one since Binance Smart Chain. I mean, Huobi, HT,
everybody's fucking got their own
Hxro chain. It's the obvious next play.
The centralized casinos, man.
This one seems to be, catching the flavor of the month, and there's a lot of projects now launching on there. Apparently, they don't have stable coins on KCS Smart Chain yet, and that may be coming in days or weeks. And,
really?
One of the guys I talked to who knows a lot about DeFi, he was saying, that's going to be their sort of ticket where the whales might actually step in with the stables there. So this is one to keep an eye on. I hate that, I'm on vacation for a week and my buddies were talking about it and I just get back a couple of days late and I'm like, they were buying it at like 10 and whatever. Not even great entries. But again, look at these reload zones, these sweet spots. Like if you can just train yourself to pick these up and you have, any chance that it's not going to die, they usually age pretty well. This one did. It's already doubled off that. So that's a free position. So I'll be watching this one for a dip if it's going to catch that sort of Binance Smart Chain rally, which it sounds like it is. I don't know where to look up their projects. I literally, I got home a couple hours ago. But I'm going to look into it tomorrow. A few of my buddies are picking up projects built on KCS Smart Chain, and that, if that's going to grab people's attention, that could be a nice little summer play.
What else could be interesting? And this is something I was actually planning to move a little bit of money over to. They've already had all this bridge shit sorted out, and all of that is Phantom. If we're talking about decentralized casinos, if we're talking about smart chains, this isn't an exchange-owned smart chain. But as a proxy, if we are in smart chain season, with things like KCS going fucking crazy, Phantom could be an interesting setup.
It's funny you mentioned that. I looked at it today. I was really excited about Phantom back in the day and just kind of missed it this year, and that's the end of that. But we're sitting in the reload zone. I've got a second chance here. There's a few levels I'd like to see resolve, unless I just want to put my money where my mouth is and actually buy some of these reload zones without overthinking it. But this is a big level here at this sweet spot. If we could trade above that at all, I think that'd be nice for a little push. Because remember, guys, part of this consolidation that forms the bottom or the quiet time, which, it won't look quiet because even playing inside this consolidation range, you're looking at 100% and 200% moves. But these, if I had to be a guesser and I said FTM is going to make new highs later in the year, next year, whatever, this consolidation, while it decides where to go next, like that's a big place to play. And so I think Phantom's on my list as well. And we're seeing, lows come in, made a higher low, now breaking out. So any kind of retest there or just aping a little bit. And
it's interesting, to see things like KCS, like and things like that still popping off, because I've thought for a while, and what is the value proposition of Matic, of Phantom, of KCS or whatever, of Binance Smart Chain? What's the value proposition of these things once we have true layer 2 on Ethereum? I don't know the answer to that question. Do they still serve some kind of niche, purpose or?
Well, it kind of reminds me of, like, let's use cell phones, for example, or cars, right? Like, why do 70 car companies exist when car A works perfectly, right? I think there's a flavor for having your own thing. There's a flavor for community. And I've always said this about crypto. I don't think it has to be, and the tribalism is so stupid because I don't, even if Ethereum can handle everything, there's still just going to be humans are going to be humans, right? Countries, political divides, like whatever. We just have a tendency to find our own factions. So I think there's a lot of room for others in the space, even if Ethereum moves off and moves on and scales up. And,
are
like
these
a car
things,
company.
I like the cell phone, analogy. Like, are these things BlackBerry though?
Yeah.
I remember for a while, even when the first iPhone came out, I loved my BlackBerry, and I was still getting BlackBerry devices. And, I thought to myself, like, man, how can these people deal with a keyboard on the screen? I've got my whole keyboard right here in front of me, and it's amazing. And obviously, that wasn't the future,
It died hard. But you still have, I was thinking more like the cell phone companies, right? Like in Canada here, we have probably 20 of them, and I'm sure Bell could handle all of the bandwidth if they wanted to, but people still sign up for Kudo and Rogers and Public and Wind, and so much like that. I just don't think that we can write off every other smart chain if Ethereum scales. I think people are just people, and they'll all want to be early to their thing, and they'll all want to be an important part of that community, and maybe they feel like they're priced out of Ethereum or they're late. Us humans, we love to be part of the new thing. So if KCS is going to drive, a month-long Uber rally on things like, it looks like coffee is the equivalent of cake, KOFFEE. And that's going to rally. Let's go.
Need a coin. What's up, dude?
Yeah.
In the chat.
In the building. I've been talking to Need a Coin about some Phantom plays. Like I said, I think I'm going to move a little bit over there and mess around a little bit. I bought something called Spell a few days ago, which is a Maker DAO killer, which is super interesting. It's got some really big names in it that are interested in it, all the right connections, all those anons that are all about Sushi Swap and Yearn, and it is interesting.
Someone made an interesting comment, DGen Nam, in the chat. He says, gaming/NFT is much better narrative than DeFi. I think that's interesting for multiple reasons. I don't even think one needs to be better. The bottom line is it is another narrative. It's another on-ramp. It's another part of crypto that is going to bring in and onboard a bunch of normies who otherwise don't know anything about it. And a
good analogy is Bitcoin back in the day, Rob. It's like in the early 2017, people heard about Bitcoin, and they came into Coinbase or whatever on-ramp they were in, and they saw, oh, well, what's this ADA stuff? What's this Litecoin stuff? What's this Decred stuff? Totally agree. All of these things are just on-ramps, and it's important. We've got more narratives than just one.
And it's going to be, it's partly, like, honestly, a coin picker's market. Find stuff that you like using. Find stuff that makes sense to you. Like the Axes rally. If you're into the gaming and NFT space, you were probably all over that thing. And, you know, the thing is attracting money flow. So, you know, look for some other stuff. I remember one that, you know, this one big wallet that I follow made a killing on Chiliz, CHZ.
Yeah,
and
number 2 for NFTs.
So
market cap.
Honestly, that just came to my mind yesterday when I'm watching Axes. I'm like, okay, this is the other name that this one guy who I know is putting research out on Axes liked and nailed during the you know, the rally a couple months ago. Let's take a look at this. This thing, like, I mean, there's a lot of space, but also it can probably go. It's 4 times from its all-time high. You know,
like, I charted Chiliz too early last year and was like, oh, this looks kind of bullish. Did not think it was going to do that. This is, I think, didn't Binance like buy them or partner with them, and they're doing some, I feel like more sports-related NFTs.
Yeah, fan token. They have real kind of stuff going on. I don't know.
They're in the reload zone.
So,
yeah,
you know, if like DJ Nam, he says gaming NFTs, it's like, okay, let's look for some names that at one point they did have a lot of excitement, get a lot of flow. Let's look and see how their fundamentals look. Are people using it still? Are the Juventus, are these football clubs that are affiliated and like if they haven't completely shit the bed and if they still have users, it could be a good punt. I mean, you know, that's kind of like you start looking, you know, RT, you call it the echoes. Like, start looking at the stuff that you're seeing get excitement, get actual money flow, and like try to find those comps that potentially relatively cheap, potentially look okay on the chart compared to the stuff that is getting a lot of flow.
Yeah, there's a really nice tool for anyone who's not aware of that on CoinGecko. They actually shortlist and basically give you an index. So you can click DeFi at the top here, get the top 100 market cap DeFi coins, and let me see here. Usually they'll give you a little chart. I zoomed in and messed it up. Okay, we're not getting them on DeFi. If you click here on the NFT one, though, you can see exactly what you're talking about, Rob. You can see these echoes coming in. Internet doesn't want to respond. Damn it, CoinGecko. I'm trying to give you a plug here. Here we go. So, yeah, you go down here. I mean, look at this down the right side here. I mean, they're all moving. And Axie's obviously leading the way right now, 222% over 7 days. But, you know, 30, 60. So how far are they going to go? And then what I would do personally is, I'll shortlist these, and then I'll just hunt for a setup. You know, I don't want to get into like blind aping in mode yet. You know, I'll do that when we're in kind of extreme greed and everything's just moving and there's no time for long, drawn-out 4-week trades. But at this point in the market, I think there's a good case to be made for something like Chiliz. It's in the NFT ballpark. It's number 2 on the market cap. It's a pretty strong play. And it's just breaking out here on the daily. Volume is starting to bubble up down in this reload zone. So, you know, depending on my time frame, I think getting long anywhere down here probably fits a pretty decent little setup. Although the drawdown is probably pretty gross to the lows, like 40%. So I'd be looking at these lows maybe. And then I just got to get my 4-to-1, you know, and that's pretty close to this resistance here.
I do think that's one of the differences between this, you know, bust cycle and the 2018 bust cycle is that there actually is network value that is being created in some of these coins. And there actually are users, you know, like there still might not be any users of Cardano, and there sure as hell weren't in 2018, but like those still had little bounces. But there are things that actually have users that are doing real transaction volume, real network volume, real business. And a lot of them are accruing value to token holders and stakers. So, you know, I think this is time to really get in there, do some homework, read some shit, use some shit, and you'll be surprised at how much value you can create for yourself and how much alpha just by like getting your hands dirty. It's a different cycle. You know, it's gonna rhyme and it's gonna all that shit, but it is a different cycle. It's not all vapor anymore. There's a lot of vapor, but there is a lot of real stuff here. And a lot of real stuff gets sold when the whole fucking market gets sold. So there's some
for no reason. Yeah, you like finding that asymmetry.
And like Messi, even though there's a lot of long short opportunities too, you can also, if you have the benefit of living in jurisdictions where you can use FTX and these derivatives platforms, you can take long short trades, right? You don't have to have massive long exposure. You can be long something that you think is, has real usage, network value, and upside, and you can get short an equal amount or a lesser amount of that other one, and you can play a long short trade. I mean, there are ways, like, I think there's multiple ways to skin this cat here. And I think it's going to be, that way for a while.
Yeah, NitaCoin mentioned my neighbor Alice. I believe this was a DAO Maker launchpad earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken. And it's really done nothing since it came out. It is coming in, bullish divergence at the lows as it made new ones. It's starting to pick up. I like this buy volume. So, for all the 2 or 3 coins I missed during my week off, my bigger excitement point was that we might be cooking into a nice echo season, even if that is just a 1-month reversion trade season. Then, I mean, like, if everything that just fell off 70-75% is going to make that 50% pullback up to the upside, I mean, we've got a really nice month ahead of us as traders. And then if we want to get a little more investy, I think that there's a lot of coins right now sitting in reload zones. So I'm really excited about this. Bitcoin obviously is going to drive the market right now. It's kind of falling asleep at the wheel. Highlighted that here, calling it boring. See if I can pull up a trade there or a chart there. I think we should take a look at Bitcoin because there's a lot of people speculating.
I think it looks weak.
Yeah,
there's a lot. Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't
look Ethereum, doesn't it?
Doesn't look strong.
I mean, look, if you go to the 1 hour time frame. Maybe I came out a little bit there, get that twang. But if you go to the 1 hour time frame on Bitcoin, and you draw that trend line, that lower trend line, the diagonal. I mean, for me, there's very, very clear weakness there, and it's already broken that secondary trend line down and been rejected, which is kind of a scary situation. But the secondary trend line, I mean, if you had if you drew from those June 26 lows to the July 2nd lows, and the primary being, from the June 22nd lows to the June 26 lows, we've already broken, that secondary trend down. We've been rejected there, and we're showing weakness on this primary trend line as well. So I see really, I really do think we're at an inflection point, and you're 100% right. Bitcoin is going to drive this market because in retrospect, looking at this, we've got this kind of rising wedge structure. Maybe it's a bear flag, something like that. This could very well be a bearish retest on Bitcoin. We pushed into resistance. There's no fucking juice. Bitcoin goes down and takes everything else with it. We're sitting at 24K. People are calling for 19, and we spring. I definitely think that's still a real possibility. That's one of the scariest things to me about, playing hot potato right now with DeFi, even though, maybe there are some echoes to be had and things like that, is, you got Big Daddy Bitcoin that decides that, hey, we're going to break down here. And I think things go to shit faster than people realize. Because people are going to offload everything that they just bought. There's not going to be liquidity there to catch it, and it's going to be a bloodbath.
It could.
I'm certainly not trying to get spread out into like 20 altcoins. I'm going to be taking some long positions on a few echo pump potentials this week. I can tell you that right now. I'm going to do my scan, and I'll probably find 1 or 2 and take a punt, but. This range, I'm a little weary of overthinking these trend lines because we're not really in a trending market right now with Bitcoin. It is in a range. I'm more concerned with the horizontals, and I actually love the idea that, on a move back into this reload zone, which is where I'd be thinking long again from range lows. That's probably a lot of people just puking bags to me because this trend line broke down. But I don't think this trend line, first of all, should matter at all. If I'm going to look at any trend lines, let's take the low, let's take the higher low, and let's play that, and we're just bouncing along, which is typically pretty weak. Taking longs against trend lines that are just getting beat up on the, that's not a good trade. I think if somebody really wants to hedge their positions, 35K is a pretty sweet level here to risk against, and we're kind of still close to it, and then you can get your 3-to-1 down to this reload zone. I haven't looked at that yet. Got home, I'm spot long from the low 30s, and I'm just thinking up next. I think GBTC unlocks have sort of put a stall in the market. I highlighted this article in the newsletter yesterday. So if anyone wants to take a look, herelabs.io, it's free. It's sitting there under the weekly tab. And, read through this. And you might get the same impression that I do, which is that we have Amber Group. We have a number of other players discussing, how it's a bullish thing. It's going to put a bid on the corn. We've got JP Morgan coming out saying it's going to be bearish because of unlocks. And then you've got the general, I think, sentiment around the idea of, well, unlock equals new liquidity equals selling. And so there's just a ton of uncertainty around that.
So maybe these unlocks could mark some kind of bottom.
Well, the biggest unlock is on July 18th. I think they're kind of just tapered along because it's a 6-month lock. So
I know there was a gap in those unlocks for a while. Do you know when they resume? Not with any kind of
I looked
major size.
Yeah, you know what? I tried to find a schedule of them to see.
bybt.com.
Yeah. They do have that, don't they?
Do they? Okay, I couldn't find it yesterday.
That's a great resource. I'm glad you mentioned that, Rob, because you can go there to check funding rates too, I believe.
What is it? BYBT?
Yeah, BYBT.
So let's pull that up. I know the biggest one that is on everyone's radar and is the best guess I've got as far as the catalyst date is July 18th, 16,000 BTC unlocking. There's a lot of talk about those, to cover those positions, they're going to actually have to buy spot Bitcoin to, unwind their premium play. Like it's a little more advanced than, it's not a trade. I know it's like more of a Rob Levy trade, but I posted that article there in the newsletter for anyone who wants to read up on it. To me, it's like 50-50, and it makes a lot of sense that we might coil into that, which would give us about 8-9 days. And how many coins are going to make their big bearish retest for 200% gains in that time? I plan to capture a couple of them, hopefully, and then get back to my Bitcoin range. If we sell off into that, I'm going to be playing the long side. Like that's kind of what I said in the article too, is that I'm probably going to fade any action that precedes that date as sort of a sell the rumor, buy the news, which is the oft forgotten inverse of buying the rumor and selling the news. So what are we looking at here, guys? On
go to they've got grayscale. There you go.
Okay.
So then they've got an unlock chart.
Trust unlock.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So I mean, we're through the whole. I mean, at the heart of it, you see from mid-May through June, just relentless week after week. We got one more big week. I personally.
Is that some of that future data? Oh, okay. No, there it is.
So where did the top come in? Just out of curiosity.
If you look at it, I mean, we had unlocks, the entire way up. During the bull run. I don't necessarily.
Yeah, I really think it's going to be.
Look at that and say it's a bearish event. If that was bearish, then shit. Well, the markets didn't act like it for the last half a year. So
I think it's a non-event, but my point is I think it's capturing people's imagination, and there's probably some decisions that are being held off until at least that July 18th. So at the very least, it's a date for us to look at. It's a vertical on our chart.
It's expectation, right?
Yeah.
If people are saying, and that's the narrative, we're gonna bottom JP Morgan, Bitcoin going to 25,000 and the end of the unlock, the unlocks upcoming. It's like, okay, if you don't get a sell off on the unlocks, then it's like, oh shit, we're going higher. That could be what we see here. You gotta try to gauge what the positioning is in the market. If big money is waiting for it, maybe no one's going to get, maybe there's big money just waiting for it to come and they think they're going to buy cheap Bitcoin. And when they can't, then they're like, okay, we waited long enough. We're not missing anymore. Boom. It's all kind of judging the psychology of the big players here. And I'm a virtual perma bull, but
yes, you're bullish, sir.
But I do think that for the people who are waiting for this, the people who are listening to JP Morgan research pieces and all that, that could be the time where if they don't get their sell-off they're looking for, they jump in. Or maybe they get the sell-off they're looking for and they're there with fucking like open arms bidding, and then they buy it, and then the sellers are gone, and then we go higher. I don't know. I'm looking at all-time highs for the NASDAQ right now. The dollar, has bounced. It's at that key level, but NASDAQ all-time highs. The Dow, it took some pipe the other day, but two days of positive after that. You could say that that equities are topping. I mean, okay, I don't know. I can't tell you that, but it's not a sign of risk off in global markets right now. You're not seeing it, that's why I'm just not.
But there's that guy on Twitter who's been calling tops on the NASDAQ for 7 years.
Yeah, nothing.
He's going to be right someday.
Dude, assets are going higher. I mean, everyone.
It does scare me a bit with the way things are rallying, and a news narrative that I haven't seen in a while is creeping its ugly head back into our lives, and that is COVID. Yeah, and I don't know. I know some foreign governments, have already reacted, with lockdowns and things like that again. And now
I heard somebody say lockdown.
There's the Delta variant, right? Which we've heard about, and they've been beating the drums on that for a little bit. Delta variant, very scary, right? I heard about a Lambda variant yesterday that's apparently popped up in 30 different countries across the world in a matter of weeks, and the Lambda variant has some insane mutation that makes it extremely contagious. So
I'll tell you what, Daniel,
and vaccine resistant.
This is part of the whole game here. Is guess what? A lot of people are going to say, if COVID rears its head again, then what does that mean? That means we get more and more stimulus. Yeah. We're going to get into this pattern of like, when bad things happen, okay, easy money, more stimulus. When good things happen, we get taper tantrums, and then like, okay, it gets to that feeling, and this is the $1 trillion bet, is that the central banks all over are really too deep into the experimental policy where they might not have a very clear and clean way to unwind and to pull back and get out. And that just kind of means that negative, more stimulus, positive, more like you get into, well, they don't have a way to kind of pull back.
Rob, let me ask you this then. Yeah. When the snowball gets rolling like that, is that a sign of, like you said, and look, nobody wants to be that guy that sits there screaming about how the market's going to crash for 8 years and then says, I told you so, and it finally happens and the market's gone 400%. But are we looking at, for the first time in a long time, a situation to where things are a little sketch, things are a bit hairy. I mean, maybe people should be exercising some caution. It kind of scared me. I mean, last night I saw Suzu asking for people to shill him risk off trades on Twitter. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Like, I thought it was up only, dude. What are you talking about?
Mr. Supercycle, let's have a chat.
Yeah. I've got a question.
I'll leave this to Rob. I don't really follow the majors like Legacy.
It's path risk. If we really have an issue, and then they've got to, the central banks, they're all in this thing. They're not letting anything fail. And maybe I'm wrong in that assumption. But if the shit really hits the fan, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to buy more bonds. They're going to stimulate. It's going to be easy money. Like, if the shit hits the fan. To me, all that, like, in the end, what is the end all? It means that the amount of debt, this debt reset, this sovereign currency reset, it's that you, in the end, want to be in the harder assets. So I don't think anyone wants to see very bad things happen economically. But if it does happen, then one of the potential outcomes is that hard assets truly rally beyond belief against USD, against yen, against euro, against won, all that stuff. And that, I think, is, why we have hedged a lot of our US dollar exposure or fiat exposure into Bitcoin and ETH and some of these harder assets. But it's scary. No one's going to pick the fucking top, just like no one can pick a bottom. It would, I'm not saying that crypto is going to be immune to, like, if there's a global fucking meltdown, not at all. But global meltdowns are, they're met with the most pretty much ferocious backstop liquidity from banks everywhere. And all that does is really make crypto assets, harder assets, more valuable. I mean, in those terms, right? So I don't know.
I guess it depends on the nature of the meltdown too. Speaking purely, pure conjecture here. I don't understand the inner workings of the economy. I didn't take economics, but if the meltdown is, to do with the US dollar, hyperinflating, I mean, that would be a different story than if it's just like a meltdown in equities like we saw in March 2020, where the US dollar, rallied up and everyone sells everything because they don't know what the hell's going on. They say, at least the US dollar, I'm looking at 2 to 5%, drawdown, inflation, whatever. It's the safest thing. That still is the flight to safety in a lot of these cases. Is it not?
It is, but
so it could be a knee jerk, right? Everything just kind of tanks into it a bit, and then like COVID 2020, we end up March, just bouncing.
What terms? Yeah. That's my question. I'd love to get someone much smarter than me on to talk me through this. But the dollar index, the Dixie DXY, that's the dollar in relation to a basket of other currencies. Bitcoin's not in that basket. It's all other sovereign currencies. It's all fiat currencies. So, in the end, the bet is really Bitcoin against fiat currencies, right? Because, we've got the US as 20% of the whatever it is, but it's not just the dollar. So if the dollar is the nicest house on the block and the block is fucking burning down, guess what? The nicest house is probably going to burn down also. So I just, that's the one thing that I can't really wrap my head around is this is crypto in general, Bitcoin in general is the non-sovereign, right? It's the hedge against sovereign denominated assets. So,
and if you ask some Bitcoin OGs, Andreas Antonopoulos, for example, and because earlier you said, if it's this, it's going to be more stimulus. If it's that, it's more stimulus. My understanding of all this and why it's sort of the way the fiat currencies work, that more of them in history have hyperinflated and died than not, it's just sort of the way they work. And so this talk of, it was COVID or it was going to be something else. They needed to print more. They needed to buy bonds. They needed to prop it up. It's all just this monster of death. It's kind of like it's got to grow or it's going to crash. And that's sort of my loose take on it. Like you said, listening to smarter people than I. And so a lot of these conspiracy theorists and that, they're saying, if it wasn't COVID, it was something else. They just had to have a reason to stimulate print and basically bail out this creature that they've created. And, who's they? Well, the Fed, whoever. But I try not to get too far into the mud on that. That's why I like to just sit back in my comfy little chair with my charts and my TA and, I'll look at some of that FA stuff. And if I follow the right people, they'll guide me through that with threads. But I kind of, that's where I stop. I don't fucking know. It's like the ultimate, I don't know what's going to happen, right? What I do know is that I want to be long on Bitcoin. I want to be involved in crypto. And my favorite trade is the echo pumps, right? It's like, we know that DeFi is rallying. We've seen 2 or 3 blue chips go. Let's see if we can find 5 or 6 green chips, the next in line. And that's just a trade, and I'll capture it and I'll settle in USD and I will settle in Bitcoin and we'll go to the next one.
So I got two things that I kind of want to close with, just 2 names and 2 interesting things I've seen. And it always interests me when the deepest pockets, when the biggest kind of guys go out on a limb and mention things like on Twitter or whatever.
What do you got?
So here's two of them. One was yesterday. Mike Novogratz put out a tweet. He's
I saw that one. What was the coin?
He was talking about Luna. So
Luna.
Terra.
That's one of your soft spots.
It is because I missed the fucking first pump, and I missed it by stupidity. It was on a list, and I just didn't pull the trigger. But he was out there saying he had a bag and he was buying it, and he was pretty much just shilling it. And
this is me charting it yesterday, actually. After he did that, I did make a little chart.
That was interesting to watch when people decide to put their neck out, right? And so that was one that I think is worth a look. The other one was like a week ago, and Barry Silbert has been, he's been pretty spot on a lot of calls lately. And he ended up either in a response to some trolling or a response to a tweet, said that he thought the most undervalued coin at the time was Horizon Zen, which
is that privacy? I feel like that might be
and Grayscale has a Zen trust, but I think you have to kind of listen when people like that who have, they've got ears listening.
Tendrils,
yeah, they've got big pockets. I don't know. Those were two that I wanted to mention. Try to just throw them out there. I'm not saying go out and buy these things. What I'm saying is pay attention to when people kind of stick their neck out, because as we all know, people like that who do publicly talk about and shill coins, they're going to take a lot of fucking heat either way. And it's really not, I don't know. It's not easy to make calls like that publicly when you're a big account.
It's not in their best interest to be wrong or to fuck around. And like you say, I think sometimes there's also this human need to be like, hey, I called that. So if they just know something and they put out a little feeler tweet, I'm with you, man. It's all who, you got to follow the right people. I always hate on Twitter. I think it's mostly a energy suck. I think most of the interactions on there don't make anyone any money. But I do follow a number of accounts. I think the Novogratz one caught me, a little off guard. He does not usually talk about any of his coins. And that Luna chart looks great. I looked at it yesterday as I had on the chart here. It's a little bit out of my I want to get some size on it, and it's just kind of already broken out. If you zoom in, to anything lower time frame, it's the old me might sit here and be like, well, I missed it. The new me might just pick up little bags, set a bid at 650, something like that, and try to catch some of this move. Because if you just look, as a Novogratz aside, it's come into the reload zone. It's just bobbled along, and it's just broken out with some nice follow-up volume. So if there's a trade here too, it's probably 10 days, at least, and that could end up getting us up into this big key resistance at like 12. So that's a nice trade.
Yeah.
What was he saying? 10? He's like, let's see if it was at 5. Let's see if we can get it to 10. So
it was one of those like.
It seemed like a shit post almost, like Novogratz, he's got Galaxy, he's got his fund, and it almost seemed like he's just sitting there on his computer with his account, like much more off the books from his usual fund, and he's like fucking around like one of us. It had good vibes.
I don't think he's going to do that for something he doesn't believe in fundamentally. I think that's part of it. Like I don't think a guy like that, I think he's past the point where he's just going to fucking shit post about some shitcoin. I think he's going to step out on something that he actually believes in what's going on under the hood. And I could be wrong, but that's part of my thesis on stuff like that.
Well, I don't mean shitpost like to dismiss it as much as like I think he actually did just go pick some up on his his Binance account or whatever. He's probably just like, yeah, let's fucking buy some of these dips. Like it seemed like a bro post is I guess what I'm saying. Galaxy Digital had a tremendous year last year. This is one of the ones I was shopping during the COVID. It hit 53 cents. I think I had bids at like 46 and 50 something. I missed it. And I was like, I'll catch the next one. Cause this was like March 2020. Right. But it had an insane year. I mean, I think it ran to like, what was it? $45 off a 50 cent bottom. So He's doing okay. He's sitting in the dip. He just hit his reload zone for his fund. I'd like to pick some of this up. I think in my retirement account, my stock account, I like to have some crypto exposure too, because if you're not all in, what are ya? But I think Luna is going to have to make my short list this week as well. And this is almost like that Echo rally where it's already tipped its hand. You're kind of like, well, which one's going to chase? This one kind of already is. So it's like you're a little late to the trough, but at least you're drinking water.
It's almost like, yeah, it's like if we are going to get into retest season where we're going to do a bearish retest, it's got some room to run to the retest level. Now,
yeah, I
don't know what that, is that good or bad? I don't know, but if shit's retesting,
there's a trade there. It's a 25% drawdown to the nearest daily invalidation that I would want to take, which is the reload zone. I hate having stop losses in those, but I've learned that it's okay sometimes. These retests, the counter trend rallies, the reversion, whatever you want to call it, they tend to move pretty hard and heavy. They don't meander up. The bottoming process here, the broader view is, like I do on all these charts, it's probably something, in line with this. Like I'm not worried about missing the $50 rally, but I don't know that I would, we'll have to see. I don't know that I would be that comfortable parking bids down here for this trade. I think we could get this follow up, and wherever this move ends up, all the way up here, whatever, that reload zone, I'm going to follow it with that. And I think that will definitely be in play, right? From these lows.
It's just something where, if we think Bitcoin's gonna like pave the way, it's watch how everything acts if Bitcoin pulls back. If you notice that there's certain things that have a bid to them or just don't get slammed as much as others, then maybe that's a sign that there's people in there buying it. So if nothing else, let's watch what things do here if Bitcoin does pull back.
Yeah, if it breaks out of this range, that's the one thing I've really enjoyed lately, is just that I'm mostly focused on Bitcoin, and it's like pulled off a little bit here during the stream. I'm basically just cash in Bitcoin right now. I've got my old couple alt bags and stuff that you guys know about, ID and some others, but for the most part, trade active wise, I'm just sitting in Bitcoin. I'd be not surprised at all if this trend line breaks down, and that's not going to be a sell signal for me, like on my spot buys in the low 30s. FYI, like I said, I've kind of abandoned my invalidation of my low 30s buys. I'm just buying them, and I'm going to trade that Bitcoin against other stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to see some uppity in the market. Let's see what Luna's doing versus Bitcoin. But make no mistake about it, when Bitcoin moves out of this range, we'll see some real fireworks across the board. Hopefully it's to the upside. Let's just be real. I think it will be, but even if it's to the downside, I feel like it's short-lived. I don't know. I'm not rushing to sell Bitcoin at 29, 28 if we break down or whatever that's going to be. It's just going to be what it is. I'll be underwater. Fuck it. Key to that before we go. I shouldn't just end on like a YOLO, no stop loss. Switch over to studio. The key to that, guys, is that I've got dry powder. I've got the amount of Bitcoin that I want to have for 5 years, 10 years. I'm going to trade against that. I'm going to work that trading plan. But I've got expenses paid. I've got my rent paid for a year. Like, just be careful, guys. Don't go off this stream and be like, well, RT said no stop loss on Bitcoin, so I'm going to put some rent money in.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, don't be dumb. Yeah. But like, I always want to have that caveat there, but I have abandoned the idea of a stop loss on my spot Bitcoin holdings at this level, for the record. I'm not selling. I'm not fucking selling.
I'm not fucking leaving.
I'm not leaving. But I am, it's on Binance. I'm gonna start rotating it into some of these alts if I can. Fuck, that range, like that coil, as much as I'm like, yeah, when this breaks, it's going to be sick. It could be weeks. I think July 18th is my first date that I'm really watching for, GPTC unlock. But there's some other dates, it could be a month. It could be 2 months. We saw it last year where it went sideways for an incredibly boring amount of time.
I do think if we're going to have, some kind of acceleration, with everything that's coming, like I would love to see us puke in the next couple of weeks and recover, and finally finally have a decent monthly candle that we can all say, okay, let's do a little bounce here. Like, here we go. I'm still watching the hash rate. I'm looking for signs of recovery and stuff. And one concerning thing is it's not coming back yet. So I am waiting to see when it does. Miners are apparently, after that difficulty change, miners are twice as profitable as they were. Something to think about.
I think we know why they're not coming back, though, yet. It's not easy to relocate.
Yeah, it takes time. Yeah,
if it's really, it came from China. It's not it's not that easy to relocate. I think we're seeing anecdotal evidence of that. But it's a great time to be a non-China miner right now.
The hash ribbons I think are going to fire a buy signal when a lot of that hash rate comes back online, and that is historically the best indicator or buy signal for Bitcoin, period. So it's a weird one. Usually you get it's more market related, price related, Bitcoin, miners capitulating, coming back online, and this one is almost like there's an event behind it. So will this be the one signal that doesn't play as well? I don't know. But they've also fired and then gone flat for 7 months, and then Bitcoin rallies. But bottoms and stuff tend to come in around the hash ribbon firing buy. So I'll be watching for that in Q3. It's a very high time frame signal, so I wouldn't hold your breath for that. But when it fires, I will have less dry powder the next day because I'm going to buy more Bitcoin. But I have a certain tranche of powder just for that signal. We'll see when it comes and how cheap it is or expensive. What a stream, boys. This has been my welcome back. I went on vacation after last week's Wednesday stream. I came back hours before today. I'll be back live Friday, guys, solo. So if anybody wants to come in and sift through some shitcoins and altcoins and DeFi and NFTs with me, we'll be going through the short list that I come up with tomorrow. And other than that, I think that's it for us today.
Yeah, let's if you're still around and you haven't smashed that like button, it always helps. Let's help these algorithms pick some good content. If you like what we're
put us on the front page of YouTube with a sub.
Yeah,
and, we're gonna pray. I'm gonna pray for your shorts, Messiah. We are coming up into an ETH BTC resistance level that I've been waiting to short for weeks. Then asking myself why I didn't long it into that, but it's not the first time I've done that. And so we'll see. I'm gonna need a lot of help from Bitcoin if I want ETH BTC to dump. So.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Bitcoin right now is at the
looks a little
decision
today.
point.
Looks a little poopy today. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all if that trend line.
A little bit more rolling over, and I think we'll see this sentiment shift around here very quickly.
If that rolls over this trend line, I still don't think that's it's like range lows, but there's going to be a lot of puking going on. So hold on to your butts. It's going to be a quiet summer, guys. So that usually, it's going to be tricky trading. Wait for the next trend if you're not into the mud on this stuff. But anyways, thanks for joining us today, guys. Have a wonderful week, wonderful day, and whatever you do from now until then, always play from a position of strength. Take care.